Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Scott Spires, managing editor with cleanandsoberstoner.com, monsterif.com, and this here YouTube channel. And today I'm doing something special. I've wanted to do this for a while, and what the heck, we're going to go ahead and do it. There's one word, there's one name that if you mention in the Stoner Doom community, that it's like a vampire with garlic. It's like Beetlejuice. Yeah, the fear in the Stoner Doom community is somebody is going to say Finn McKenty 3 times, Finn McKenty, Finn McKenty, Finn McKenty, and he's going to appear. It's like, I've never seen the scene more triggered by a single name or a single individual than Stoner Doom can with Finn. He produced a while ago a video that, I'll admit, I think I rage quit. And I might have typed something in his comments like, how dare you, and da-da-da-da. Okay, so now my chance to trigger everybody. I like Finn McKenty a lot. I can't say that we're friends, but I have something of a professional relationship with Finn. He's been a consultant for this channel. I'm a huge fan of his. Like, I think he has done more to influence heavy metal and heavy rock than Ronnie Radke with Falling in Reverse. I think he has as much of a grip on the testicles of the scene as any new metal band. I mean, his coverage of Linkin Park and the whole, it's just legendary. Fred Durst, I mean, the dude, he triggers a lot of people. The thing about Finn is he's the most honest broker on YouTube or on social media, on LinkedIn, of anybody that I know. I disagree with him pretty strongly on a lot of things, but he's always honest. And even though, again, I think he's categorically wrong on a lot of things that he says, his conclusions somehow are generally correct, even if some of the data that brought him there is skewed. He gets a lot of heat that I think is totally undeserved. I have nothing but respect for Finn McKenty. So if you have a problem with something of a fanboy doing a reaction video, then this isn't going to be the video for you. But if you want to kind of relive the trauma, if you want to, in a safe space, we're going to have safe words, safe space. We're going to watch The Truth About Stoner Doom by Finn McKenty, the most infamous video in the history of the heavy underground. We're going to watch it together. I promise to have a safe space. I promise it to be a welcoming environment with respect for everybody's tastes and opinions. So if you've had enough of my yapping, let's go ahead and check it out. I wasn't going to dress like Finn, have the hat on and all that, but I don't want to parody him. So I might reserve the right to do that at another time. So let's check out what Finn has to say, and I'll start and stop, and I'll comment along the way.
What's up, everybody? I'm Finn McKenty. This is my second channel, and this is your home for my Twitch highlights and my podcast. So if you like this and you want to see more of that and you want to join the live streams, there's a link to that in the description of this video. And with that out of the way, let's get into it.
So right away, I'm just going to say what Finn is a master of is he's working multiple social media platforms. He's working multiple streams. And I think he does it in a way that isn't on its own cringy. I think his methodology is sound for 80-90% of the channels out there. I think both he and I would agree that his methodology doesn't necessarily fit in with this niche. But right away, a little bit of respect. Again, if you don't want to see Finn McKenty respect, go away. But if you want to see a truthful, honest assessment of this video, hang in here. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. We're fine.
Let's get into it. Here's a question that has come up quite a few times that I wanted to address. Unfortunately, I think those of you who are fans of stoner rock and doom metal and all that kind of thing may not like this one, but you know the deal. I got to keep it real. I can't lie. Here's the question.
Again, so he gives us, this is the equivalent of a trigger warning right here. And I think both he and I know no one's going to listen to this trigger warning, but he did give it to us. In all fairness, he did give it to us. He let us know right away, hey, this might be comfortable, and we might need to establish a safe word. Anyway.
As someone who's recently stumbled into stoner rock, what are your opinions on it? Well, in general, I try to kind of avoid covering things that I don't like because I don't want to be rude. And like a lot of people may think that I take delight in quote unquote shitting on music that other people like. I don't at all. It's not true. But many people have asked me about this, and I've always just sort of avoided the question, but I will answer it. And to make a long story short, I don't think it's great. For anybody who is not familiar, I'll give you a little bit of an overview of the genre, which, by the way,
Here we go. This is where things start to get a little bit off the rails, and I'll measure my own pulse here during this. Let's go.
Which, by the way, I'm no expert on it. I kind of know the basics, but, there's plenty of other people who know lots and lots more about this stuff.
He doesn't know the basics.
According to Wikipedia, stoner rock, also known as stoner metal or stoner doom, apparently not to be confused with regular old doom. I don't know what the difference between stoner doom and regular doom is, but apparently there is one. Is a rock.
Finn, just like and subscribe. Clean and Sober Stoner, Monster Riff. We'll hook you up. We will give you better, more current information than some random thing on Wikipedia. But anyway, we know his source. Now we know his source. So not to take any heat off Finn, but he went to ye old Wikipedia to get the lowdown on Stoner Doom. What could possibly go wrong?
Is a rock music fusion genre that combines elements of doom metal with psychedelic rock and acid rock. The genre emerged during the early 1990s and was pioneered foremost by Kyuss and Sleep.
To be fair, he's doing this extemporaneously on his Twitch channel, but just hearing Kyuss pronounced Kyuss it hurts. It hurts. It hurts right here. It does not get any better.
And Sleep. That sounds about right to me. But if I had to point to one song that started the whole thing, it would be this song by Black Sabbath from whatever this is, like 1969 or something like that. Sweet Leaf. And in case you didn't know.
Whoa. 1969? Come on. 1971. The details matter. Like if Finn, love you, man, but if you're gonna bring it, you need to bring a little bit of knowledge, because the scene is gonna watch this. So thumbs up, Master of Reality, Sweet Leaf, gotta give it up for that. But 1969, it hurts. Now, if you're not in the scene, if you don't listen to the music, you're like 1968, 1960. Oh no, we trust our lineage. We obsess over the history of Stoner Doom. There are entire websites. I've been in countless debates with people like JJ Kozan and I don't necessarily agree. And Steve Howe from Outlaws on the Sun doesn't agree. But we can all agree that Master of Reality was released in 1971. Black Sabbath, famously February 13th, 1970, followed by Paranoid, followed by Master of Reality. So the timeline matters, my friend. The timeline matters. It's like he's one of the writers for The Rings of Power, where they totally disregard the Tolkien, timeline and all that. And the only people triggered more by this stuff than Stoner Doom fans would be Tolkien fans. So right away, he's on thin ice.
By Sweet Leaf, don't tell mom. Don't tell mom, but Sweet Leaf means weed. Marijuana. This song is about marijuana. Shh, don't tell mom. She's right outside. But this is the song that started it all, as far as I'm concerned. You like that choppy sample? Now, when I say that this is sort of the template for stoner rock, I'm not exaggerating. It's like, to me, the whole genre is basically, I don't want to say copying this song, but we'll just say heavily inspired by this song. Where I discovered it was a band called Sleep in the early 90s. This is the album that I first discovered. This song called The Druid, I remember. I think this is from like 92, 93. This was the first thing I heard. And you can see this sort of aesthetic, this sort of hippie-inspired acid aesthetic, which in metal, nobody was really...
Whoa. Hippies? Okay. We've got... Come on, hippie-inspired. Hippie would be Jefferson Airplane and maybe Grateful Dead and maybe Coven singing One Tin Soldier. Hippie is light and bouncy and tra-la-la-la-la stuff. Sabbath was anti-hippie, so let's... Come on, Finn. There's nothing hippie about the... Burnout, long hair, Cheech and Chong, sure. Hippie? No.
was really doing back then. That was like pretty fresh. I didn't really like this because I wanted to hear like fast death metal and grind back then. But you can hear how this is sort of like an updated version of Black Sabbath, right? Similar sort of feel. You know, the vocals on Sleep are a little bit more, I guess, harsh might be the word. So I heard this at the time and I was like, all right. I mean, again, this is just my personal opinion. People are asking me what I think. My opinion back then is I thought Black Sabbath was boring and slow because I wanted to hear like Sepultura, Deicide, you know, Morbid Angel. That's what I wanted. Napalm Death. Black Sabbath was like dad rock to me back then.
Dad rock. Did you say dad rock? It's okay. It's okay, man. So yeah, there's a split with heavy metal happens, I'd say right around Judas Priest era, and then Iron Maiden, and then you had Motorhead, and so one branch like grew really, really fast, and the other branch just kind of like very slowly has become the enormously varied and incredible fusion-oriented genre it is today. But again, at this point, this is mid. This is it gets better.
To me back then. And, you know, respect to Black Sabbath, obviously pioneers, but I don't know. By the time I heard Black Sabbath, I had already gotten into like, you know, hardcore and stuff. So it just always sounded kind of bland and boring to me. And I kind of felt the same about Sleep. Sleep was a little bit cooler, I guess. But I thought it was a little bit boring. And then this is from their next album, Dope Smoker, which is really kind of the template.
No, this is not Dope Smoker. This is Sleep's Holy Mountain. The details matter, but it's okay. It's okay, man. I'll be good.
Kind of the template for this whole genre, in my opinion, even more so than Black Sabbath. Oh, this is not a Dope Smoker. Okay, well, whatever. In any case, you get the idea. Like, whereas Black Sabbath was kind of trying to be, I guess, a little bit veiled with the references, you know, Sweet Leaf, Don't Tell Mom. Sleep just called this Dope Smoker, right? They're not trying to hide it anymore. It's the 90s. We don't have to hide it. We can smoke dope. And you kind of get the vibe from this album. They're really kind of referencing that like late 60s, early 70s sort of vibe, you know, with these, whatever these people are, these Jawas trudging through the space desert with their space camel and the sort of 70s inspired sort of logo. You know, it kind of reminded me of the covers of like Heavy Metal magazine. If you guys remember that, if you guys are old, reminds you of this kind of look, right? I would read Heavy Metal whenever I could find it because sometimes there were boobies in the drawings. You know, the adult illustrated fantasy magazine, meaning it would have some story about like this guy trudging across a desert and he would meet some sexy aliens with 3 boobies. You know, this sort of look, right? November 1977. You can see how this aesthetic and these illustrations has been so like influential on like, stoner metal and that sort of stoner rock, that sort of thing. So
you gotta admit, that's pretty insightful for somebody outside of the scene. That's pretty good. I go a step further. I think it is so entrenched into the genre that I think some of the newer bands aren't necessarily aware of heavy metal, but they still bring that aesthetic. I think Bog Wizard is a great example of that. Frog Lord. There is this. So that's pretty insightful. Even you have to give it up to him on that. That's pretty good.
Oh, Sleep to me was kind of, at least as far as I can tell, was sort of the real defining band of what I would think of as like stoner rock. Until then, I mean, maybe there were other examples of people trying to kind of bring this aesthetic and sound back, but I hadn't seen them. So they were kind of the next big one. For whatever reason, it just clicks with a certain type of person. And ever since then, there's been this whole genre of bands who essentially just keep doing that. High on Fire is another one. It's Matt Pike from Sleep's other band.
One of these things is not like the others. Let's go back to basic Sesame Street. High on Fire, aggressive, fast-paced, very modern. Sleep, very old school. Definitely the definition of stoner doom, the slowed down things. One of these things is not like the others, but okay. I think the other thing is I'm so deep in the scene, like I'm so deep into it that it's hard for me to look at stoner doom as somebody from the outside. Because I've been listening to this, pretty much since Master of Reality came out, and so what I try to remind myself here is. What Finn is saying here is, I'm going to have to say 98% of an outsider's reaction to the scene. And we do this deliberately. We do. We got to own it.
Sleep's other band. I like this better than Sleep because it's a little bit more up-tempo.
There you go.
But still, the problem is like a real lack of dynamics. And no hooks. We'll talk about this in a minute. As far as I'm concerned, like, this is as good as the genre gets, and it's still not that interesting to me. I mean, it's okay. But it kind of doesn't really do that much for me for reasons I'll talk about. And then there's this whole genre of other bands that basically continue to do the same thing. Red Fang, this is another, I guess, big, stoner rock band. Big, at least as big as that genre can be. Pretty much sounds like High on Fire, right?
No, it doesn't.
Obviously, all heavy music comes from Sabbath, but it's a little bit too much to try to come so close to those first few Sabbath albums. It still feels like none of the bands take into account how amazing their songwriting is. They just focus on guitar tones, not the songs. Exactly what I think, and I'll explain in more detail in a minute. I mean, sounds very, very similar to Sleep, right? A little bit more up-tempo, but very similar.
In what universe?
And this is right. This is my complaint. These people literally make their entire shtick built around fuzz pedals and smoking weed. That's pretty much how I feel about it. There's this whole wave of new bands. This is one that people tell me is good. This band Lowrider, apparently from Sweden, is like a newer band that people tell me.
Okay, so Lowrider is the farthest thing from new band. Lowrider is a second wave band. Lowrider comes out from the death of Kyuss. They put out their album really like in 90. Again, I'm not going to pretend, but Lowrider is essential, primal, one of the founding fathers, because you had Kyuss and Sleep, and the other one we always forget to mention, you have Acid King kind of doing their thing in the early 90s, and then Sleep disappears, Kyuss disappears. Lowrider, another band would be in the toss, pick up the torch. If there's no Lowrider, There's no dozer. There's no truck fighters. So Lowrider is essential. They are not a newer band. They're that hurts.
People tell me it's good. This is fine to me. But, I mean, I've heard this hundreds of times.
When?
Over the past 30 years, right?
Okay.
With that out of the way, a little bit of a brief overview of the genre. Again, I'm not...
Oh, what could possibly go wrong here, my friend?
I'm not by any means an expert on this stuff, and I'm not pretending to be. I'm only giving you my personal opinion on this because people have asked. If you like stoner rock, like, I'm not telling you to stop liking it. I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm just giving you my opinion on it. The reason why it kind of doesn't work for me is basically what some of the people in the chat have said before. I mean, on the one hand, like, you could say this stuff all sounds the same, and that's true, but I think that's kind of true of almost all genres, right? I mean, that's kind of like the definition of a genre is that it sounds like the stuff in the other genre, and it has the same kind of aesthetics as the other stuff in the genre. So I don't think that that's really a unique criticism that you can make of stoner rock, because all stuff in all genres sound.
This is what I mean. This is why I'm a fan. So when Finn dials down into his macro view of how the music universe and in the world works, I think he's really spot on. And I think we're not doing ourselves any favors if we don't listen to it, especially the old punk rock MBA stuff. His early stuff is fantastic, but nicely done. Now, everything that comes after the word but makes everything before the word but totally mean nothing.
Sounds the same. But the specific issues that I have with this stuff are really kind of that there's a lack of songwriting. It's riff salad in the same way as like technical death metal is riff salad, only all the technical death metal riffs go.
Okay, everybody, breathe. 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 Okay, we're fine. We're fine. We're in a safe space.
Right? Stoner rock, all the riffs are like it's kind of all sort of variations on the same thing without really any of the things that I look for in a song, like vocal hooks and dynamics. A lot of these stoner rock bands tend to either be like super slow and droney like all the time, just kind of like maybe that would be stoner doom. I don't know, whatever the difference is. But they either tend to be like really slow and droney and sludgy like early Sleep was, which was cool when Sleep did it. But again, that was 30 years ago. Do we need to do that again and again and again?
Yes. Yes, we need to do that again and again and again.
Again and again and again. Or they do sort of the perpetual like mid-tempo thing like this. Like, this song is just the same kind of mid-tempo feel the entire time. And if you like it, again, that's cool.
The vocal hooks, the harmonies on this are like next level. Now, maybe next level for Stoner Doom, but I think there's a little bit of a cell phone here, and I have a feeling he hasn't really listened to much Red Fang, even though peak Red Fang is right in front of him. That is a virtually joyful, playful, in the videos, just classic. So, Finn, listen to this one again, okay? I invite on the channel, me, listen to Red Fang, watch the video. Good times will be had.
Again, that's cool, but for me, like, I listen to things with, I guess you could say, more of like a pop ear. I want to hear dynamics. I want to hear variation in the arrangement. I want to hear vocal hooks and lyrics that are catchy to me. You know, the vocal melodies are not really that important in this genre. The lyrics are not really that important in the genre. Like, it's really about the riffs. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you're into. But for me, it's got to be more than just a collection of these sort of, you know, recycled Sabbath riffs for me to get into it, you know? And I think part of that is, like, maybe if you're really high, this stuff probably sounds amazing. I can imagine that. Like, if I was high as shit, I could imagine that sleep would be like the most amazing thing ever. Because, you know,
I wouldn't know. I've never heard sleep.
Weed does funny things to your brain. Weed makes you believe that a lot of things are more amazing than they actually are. So that's sort of my issue with it on a musical level. And on a thematic level, obviously this is called stoner doom for a reason. I'm sure there's some people involved with this scene that don't smoke weed, but it's like kind of an integral part of the culture is like weed and alcohol. It's like basically like lightweight drug addict music, I guess you could call it. Stoner fans like the 3 Bs, bongs, beer bongs, and bad music. I think that's probably about right. For me personally, you know, I'm just not into this sort of thing where people make consumption of any drug into their identity or their whole personality, whether that is weed or alcohol or, you know, Xans or whatever. Like, it's not that interesting to me. Like,
yeah, it's an issue. It's a marketing issue on Stoner Doom. We call it Stoner Doom. This is why Clean and Sober Stoner exists. So I'm making fun of it, but we can also push back the narrative. And I hope everybody just listens to what he's saying here, because it's not entirely off base.
I mean, like, I'm not offended by it. I don't think it's interesting. You know what I mean? I've been around drug addicts and shit my whole life. I've done plenty of drugs. I get it. If the most interesting thing you have to offer is that you play Black Sabbath riffs, you have a beard, and you smoke a lot of weed, that's just not that interesting to me. You know, aside from that, I feel like there's just a part of it that's just kind of a bummer, in a sad, depressing way.
This is where he and I are going to part company on this part. Yeah.
Way, meaning that it's a gateway to bands like I Hate God. Jesus. That's a gateway no one needs to go through. I mean, I agree with you, but nobody needs to go through that gate. If you identify with I Hate God, I'm not being like over the top or sarcastic here. You should get therapy.
I, for a whole variety of reasons, have a problem with this statement and what he's saying. And at the same time, I agree with him. I'm going to counter propose something that if a person is into I Hate God and a lot of the other, that type of sludge stuff, that is their therapy. Okay. It's where the external, which is the music of I Hate God, resonates with the internal, and it gives them a chance to normalize and to understand they're not alone. So the idea of, if you listen to I Hate God, you need therapy, I think is a destructive statement. And knowing Finn as much as I do, I think he'd be the first to admit it, as long as I gave an objective and not an emotional response to it. I think this is an unfortunate part. I don't listen to I Hate God for the very reason that he's saying. And yet I love Primitive Man, who takes it, you know, even a step further. So I just think it's unfortunate that this is what was said. But we have to, you know, this is his perspective. This is where he's coming from on it. And I think this one section right here is worth a lot more discussion. Probably not with Finn. I don't see him coming on the channel. But I do want to, I work with a music therapist. She's awesome. Her name's Tiffany from Rhythm and Cadence Family Services. We're going to do some collaborating stuff on the therapeutic use and meaning of this. Yeah, so there's a lot here. Like, of all the things he says in this video, this is the one that I think resonated. And I went, huh, there's a there. There's something there. I don't agree with it, but there's something there.
Because that is some like seriously dark shit. I kind of agree with this being sort of the precursor to I Hate God, and that's not a good thing. That's the reason why I don't really resonate with this stuff on a thematic level, because I feel like a lot of this, you know, again, with drugs and alcohol being such a huge part of it, it's just kind of a bummer to me. You know, it's not as depressing as I Hate God, but it's just kind of a bummer. A lot of it feels like just old guys who just sort of gave up. You know what I mean?
And then he goes here. Like, he had me there. I was trying, and now here's the slam that we're gonna get, the painting with the wide brush. And I think what I'm detecting here is a little bit of boomer envy and a little bit of Gen Z envy. Because I think that is Gen X. They're not sure who they are, so they're kind of envious of the boomers and envious of millennials and Gen Z. This is a pattern that I just see over and over again within the generations. The other thing is, so much of the music that is coming out in the stoner doom, in the heavy underground, is performed by people between the ages of, I can comfortably say, 18 and about 24 years old. That there is such a groundswell of support. Not Taylor Swift level, but it's there. And anybody who spends any time, reading our blog, watching our material, the Doom charts, if you take a look at how old these people are, they're very, very young. And I don't think Elder, I don't think that King Buffalo fits anything that he's saying. I think a majority of music that is stoner doom doesn't fit in here. So shame on you for the painting with the broad brush thing. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could say the same thing about emo rap as far as it being like negative and revolving around drugs. And I think that would be true, because so many of those songs are basically saying like, I'm depressed and I use drugs to cope. And that is a sad message. That's a sad negative message that I don't endorse. But these people are young. These are like 17 to 20-year-old kids or whatever. You feel like there's still a chance for them to change and pull out of it. Whereas like with the stoner stuff, a lot of these people are in their like 30s, 40s, even their 50s. It feels like they're just kind of set in their ways, like they've given up, and they're just kind of going to lean into this lifestyle of smoking weed, drinking beer, and playing Black Sabbath riffs forever. And it bums me out. Again, no judgment. If that's what you're into, you do you. It's your life, not mine. But it doesn't work for me. Like, I do not resonate with that message. Let's just put it that way. So, those are my thoughts on stoner rock, stoner doom, whatever, all that kind of shit. Same thing I feel the same way about doom, I guess to a lesser extent, because doom at least doesn't have the stoner element. But, I don't want people to take this as me like shitting on a genre of music. It's just my personal opinion because people have asked, so I wanted to put it out there. The musical innovation isn't there. I don't think the level of craft is super high. I mean, this video is sort of an example of this. I feel like people geek out more about their collection of fuzz pedals than they do, writing songs. And that's disappointing to me. And then on a kind of more thematic or lyrical level as well, just kind of bums me out / grosses me out / bores me. I don't think weed is that interesting. Having your entire life revolve around weed and fuzz pedals is just not, just not my speed. Let's put it that way. So for anybody who has asked what I thought about stoner rock, there's your answer. I'm sorry for anybody who may not like that opinion, but it is just my opinion. At least they ain't on the lean and the fent. Man, I bet a lot of these people do end up getting into fentanyl is the thing. And, alcohol, is alcohol better than fentanyl? I guess, but only marginally, to be honest. Alcohol is a pretty fucking horrible drug. It's one of the worst, in my opinion. I mean, think about how many lives have been ruined by alcohol, It's no joke. Yeah, the soundtrack should be a sad old fat guy. I didn't want to be rude, but yes, basically that.
I've watched this like 10 times, and it's sometimes hard. But I want to address a couple things that might be a little controversial. You might not agree with me on what I'm about to say, and that's fine. I think that is the image of stoner doom out in the wild, and I think I relish it. I love when I'm with colleagues or, I'm in a series and I go, oh no, I have a Stoner Doom blog and a Stoner Doom. I enjoy it, so I embrace it, but I can't, I don't have the right to bitch and complain, right? If that's the way people take it. I think Stoner Doom does do a little bit of gatekeeping in that we lean so heavily on it. Even the guys that are in recovery, and I'm not going to call anybody out, right? At least not in this video, maybe one-on-one. There are an amazing amount of people who are like that they're not drinking alcohol. They might be Cali sober, but there's plenty out there that is zero drugs, like almost to the point of straight edge, and yet their band still has the imagery. I also think stoner's more of a lifestyle than doing the drug, and I know I'm rationalizing on that, but if I'm really stressed out, I can go, wow, man, that's a bummer. I talk like Tommy Chong and I feel better, I think Stoner Doom needs to take a look, at itself in as a whole. I know John Gist, he doesn't use the term Stoner Doom very often. That's mostly he's going to use heavy rock, heavy metal, hard rock. I think that there's a whole bunch of people who do use the other names. Heavy Psych, is another one. But at the end of the day, it becomes Stoner Doom. And there's an element of truth to that. There's a big, huge element of truth to that. But a lot of that is due, again, to marketing, to appealing to a certain amount of people. And to be frank, there aren't a lot of journalists, there aren't a lot of magazines, there aren't a lot of media companies that are willing to present the huge variety of Stoner Doom. I think where I'm disappointed with Finn is, one, Stoner Doom is so much closer to punk rock than I probably think he wants to admit. I think Kyuss has way more influence in the scene than what he's aware of. I'd say maybe even a little bit more than Sleep. That's controversial, but at least a little bit more than Sleep. That, there is this incredible fusion of jazz. There's, bands that come to mind, like 8 Foot Man-Child with the whole Doom tuba thing and the saxophone. It's just such a variety here. And, I can't blame. I can't blame Eddie Trunk, although I do. I can't really blame Rick Beato. Hard for me to say that. And I can't really blame Finn. It's like, well, I have a camera, I have a microphone, here's the channel. So this is why the channel exists, is a little bit of a pushback to Finn's perspective on this. I think it's a little misleading to say the truth about Stoner Doom, in your thumbnail, and then in the video kind of disavow that you're trying to shit on a whole scene, because this video does. I think there's a lot of good that can come out of this, which is why I'm sharing it. That's the thing about Finn. He mispronounces Kyuss, but then he makes these really insightful things. And I consider him a good friend of the channel, even though he doesn't watch it. But Finn's a guy that I think has earned a certain amount of respect. I'm just disappointed always that he doesn't see the DIY aspect of it. He doesn't see that it is self-produced, it is self-recorded, it tends to be self-released. The labels that have sprung up organically. Ripple Music, Todd Severin was a writer. He was a blogger. They come from bands. They form labels. They're mortgaging their house. They're taking. There's a lot of sacrifice to build the community, and I think if we're given an opportunity to interact and learn about and embrace it, I'd like to think by being our best selves, we can push against that narrative, because that, whether we like it or not, that's the narrative that's mostly out there. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I'm really hoping for comments in here. I think that there needs to be a wider discussion on what Finn is talking about here. And I'm not one of those guys that shies away from uncomfortable topics. Just I hope I'm honest in my assessment. I'm not doing this for the clickbait and for the drama. I'm doing this because I really think there needs to be a counter narrative. So thanks for tuning in. Clean and Sober Stoner. If you like this content, you can buy us a coffee. The link is down below. More great things are coming. And dudes, rock on. Bye.